Hey guys, Bike here, and I'm back again with another Last Epoch build guide video. This one's for Smite and Ignite in Cycle 1.1. If you guys remember, I did a build at the end of Cycle 1.0, Smite and Ignite, and Smite got changed a lot. And so I took the build in a different direction. Instead of the crit-based Smite we had before, I took it in more of a dot-based. And fun fact, I'm actually re-recording this video. I actually recorded this earlier. And in it, I said, yeah, I think it's okay, but I think Bleed is better. But after playing Bleed Hammers for the first time on stream today, I can definitively say Bleed Hammers is much better. Nonetheless, we killed Aberroth with Smite and Ignite, and we were able to do 500 corruption. So if you guys have already played Bleed Hammers or you're just looking for something else, I'll have a link to the planner in the description down below, and you guys can check it out. I've actually, I already switched off of this, so we're going to be looking at the planner on Last Epoch Tools, and we'll go over the items, the blessings, all that good stuff. And yeah, so let's go on over the planner. We'll go over some gameplay and go from there. See you soon. All right, gameplay. So this was taken at 500 corruption. As you can see, we're just rolling on through everything. We're just taking everything out. We had to take the build in a different direction. So just trying to stack Ignite by itself was not enough. We weren't able to, there's just not enough synergies to make the Ignites last long enough to do that much damage. So I added Fissure onto the build. I actually made Fissure work. I had to stack a bunch of mana regen just to make it work. But that was the only way we can do any sort of fire dot build on Sentinel and actually make it worth something. And this is how we were able to, kill Aberroth with it. As you can see, we're just cruising through, able to go from pack to pack. The build is pretty tanky. We're able to utilize a few defensive items that I'm not able to utilize on Bleed, just because Bleed has so many synergies in the uniques that it's hard to pass them up. But on this one, we had a few defensive options, so we got some tank going for us. We're able to kind of cruise through some stuff. We can still hold our own. Like I said, there's 500 corruption. Speaking of Aberroth, let's go now. As you can see, it took me a long time to take this guy out. And the whole reason why I started using Fissure was because Fissure has a kill threshold. It was the only way I could kill him in his final phase without just dying to dots, of eventually accumulating over the arena as it gets smaller. But it did the job. It did the job, and we were able to get through it. So, enough of the gameplay. Let's jump into the planner. All right, so you'll have to excuse ads and stuff like that. I'm going to try and be quick with this. If you're looking for a dot hammer build, VK dot hammers, which I did earlier, Void Storm, that's very viable. But if you're on Paladin, I do recommend Bleed hammers. I'm playing it right now. I'll probably get a build guide out there at some point, but this is for the people who want to do something else. They don't want to do, because Bleed hammers is kind of meta. So let's go over what we got here, and then we'll just go over everything. So Leonines, this is brought to us by Nemesis Incorporated. The Nemesis. I was able to get a T7 strength and T6 attunement, so this was quite nice. Increased health. There's a ton of armor from just this helmet. If I were to remove this, yeah, I would lose a ton of armor. Highly recommend Leonines Plus. It's our main source of critical strike reduction in the build. Highly recommend. Champion Regalia, again, another item brought to us by our friends at Nemesis Incorporated. So this one already had vitality and health. I was able to add % health and then fire damage and ignite duration. I find this to be a nice little synergy. The vitality, I mean, you could go for strength, but we already got plenty of armor in the build. We're at 6,471. That's effectively a 70% mitigation. We're also using Throne of Ambition here, so when we start getting those throne procs, you know what I'm saying? Like the armor is gonna go pretty high. Like this will get up. This damage mitigation will get up to like 76%. Our armor will climb up there. So The vitality isn't bad. It's helping with our poison and necrotic resistances. It's good. And then the T7 health and percent health, I'd probably rather have that flipped, right? I'd rather have T7% health and then T5 flat health, but this is fine. And then Champion Regalia is a good base. It already came with damage reflected to attackers already on there. So yeah, we're able to go with that. So originally I was using a Firestarter's Torch, and that was good, but Scepters in general cannot get the elemental damage over time affix on them. So I eventually went with Cindersong. I went to the dummies. I tested it out a few times. We just kept, smacking the dummy, switching between them both. Ultimately, Cindersong passed the eye test. And it gives a +1 to fire spell skills, which, Smite's a fire spell skill. It has a chance to inflict spreading flames. Already has a nice percent increase to fire damage. Obviously, minus mana cost for the projectiles for fireball doesn't really help us at all, but there you go. Nonetheless, solid wand. Recommend. You could also probably just use a crystal wand if you want. But I thought Cindersong was a good pickup here, especially if you have one with like 3 or even 4 LP. You can go from there. Fire pin. I would prefer fire damage instead of elemental damage, but that's fine. This works out. This is good. This is a good pickup. So Quicksilver Coil. The only reason why I'm using this, it's 3 LP. It's a decent base movement speed. It's whatever, but it's chance to proc haste. Now we already have a chance to proc haste if we go over here into the skills and we look at Holy Aura. Holy Aura gives us a chance to proc haste on Expedite, right? But that's a 9% chance. This gives us a 20% chance. Now, I don't know if they stack and it becomes a 29% or they're just 2 separate instances where they can proc, but nonetheless, with hammers, with both of these options, we almost have perma haste as long as our hammers can hit somebody, right? And when you use these boots, Advent of the Erased, you take up to 35% less damage over time taken while you have haste. This is very good. Helps you survive in the monoliths, and it helps you survive against Aberroth because he has a ton of dots. Highly recommend these boots. If you don't want to use these boots, Fiery Dragon shoes are a good choice, or just Citadel boots in general. Anyway, these 2 rings right here with the minus mana cost for throwing skills, throwing attack speed, health, they're good. You can use whatever you want. You can even use the new was it Sigion ring or whatever that helps summon the Sigils of Hope for you. If you have one with a lot of LP, you can go with that, but I felt like Quicksilver Coil was a good pickup. And it's also true for this ring. Ruby rings are good because they give us increased fire damage if we don't need another ring here for resistances, but nonetheless, it's just block chance, block effectiveness. I just need that 3% block chance to make sure I was block chance capped. So there we go. Like I said, you can use whatever you need here, but Ruby Ring is a good pickup if you don't have another logical choice. For the Shield Bulwark of the Last Abyss, I obviously in the planner it shows the range, but I do have this slammed in game with a 26% max T7 block chance and then 16% block chance. So right now with these pickups right here, I'm at a perfect 100% block chance, which is good. We don't have the best block effectiveness, but we do have 100% block chance. So we got that going for us. Going to the gloves, Burning Avarice. You get this from the Soulfire Bastion. You get them from the vendor. You don't get them from the boss. You have to buy these gloves from the vendor in the Soulfire Bastion. I got one with 2 LP. It was the only 2 LP. I farmed for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And like I said, it's the only one with 2 LP, and we were able to get throwing attack speed and health. I think that's fine. Other good affixes here. Could be armor if you need some armor, but I do think the mana regen, the small little bit of armor is fine. The health, the throwing attack speed, and then, is our only source of leech in the build. Leech rate, a little bit of elemental resistance, and then fire penetration with ignite. We actually ended up boosting the damage of Fissure more than our ignites because I was just having such a hard time stacking the ignite chance. Ignite stacks. But nonetheless, I could still, on a big boss, get 300 stacks of Ignites, Fissures going on. This is nice. This is good. If you don't want to use Burning Avarice, good old Eternal Gauntlets are fine. Atrophy, that gives you a chance to slow, and then damage penetration. You penetrate resistances for damage over time with all forms of damage over time. That's what Atrophy does. So you could use that in this place as well if you like. All right, I got lucky with this one, Code of the Erased. I just needed the mana regen, and I had this one, plus I was looking for another way to mitigate dots, because we don't always have haste up, so I want to make sure I had a backup, and that's what this did right here. So the 20 to 30% of armor mitigation also applies to damage over time, and 30% increased armor. These are good pickups right here. And then +1 to sentinel skills. If you don't have this, you can just use whatever relic you want in this slot. You just shore up anything you're missing. Elemental damage over time is a good affix if you don't want to run mana regen. But if you're going to be running Fissures in the build, I highly recommend mana regen. For the belt, I actually got kind of lucky with this one. We have elemental damage over time, mana regen, cooldown recovery, and then a fat T7% increase health, and then sealed affix is cleanse. I highly recommend cleanse. You can have as much dot mitigation as you want. Eventually, if you have 30 stacks of poison on you, you will die. So cleanse is a must. You don't necessarily need the Noble Sash base. You can use Praetorian Belt. You can use Spider Silk if you're lacking poison and cold resistance. But these sort of stats, if you're running Fissure, highly recommend. We already went over the boots. Let's go over our last piece, Nihilus. I was using a Bleeding Heart for a while, but I just needed the mana regen. My Nihilus that I have in game has 19% mana regen. It's actually all positives because Nihilus is one of those items that can roll with negatives. So I have like, was it 19? No, I have 19% mana regen, 10% more armor, 7% to all resistances. That's fine. And then 2.8 seconds of frenzy after you use evade. Those are all nice. Plus the implicits. I think I had like 8% health, 4% mana, and like 4% movement speed. My Nihilus is pretty well rolled, plus I slammed it with a T6 health. This is a great pickup, and +2 to all skills. It really helps out a lot here. Highly recommend. Anyway, that is the gear. Let's go over the idols. We're not going to be here too long. So the build I ran last cycle, we ended up taking in a crit direction. Obviously, this one's more of a dot direction. The crit direction, we had to use all 4 idols because we're trying to proc as many of the smites as we could, because smites were uncapped. You can proc as many smites as you want, but if you guys remember, the chance per idol was at a lot lower. It was 3 to 9%. Well, they changed it this cycle to make it 10 to 25%, but then they capped how many smites you can proc per 2 seconds. 10, right? I've been treating it as 5 per second, but technically it's 10 per 2 seconds. So you could actually end up proccing all smites in less than a second, and then there's like a second of no smites, and then all of a sudden your smites start going again. It's actually not that bad against bosses. It's not that bad against bigger enemies, but when you're fighting against a big pack of enemies, all those smites go out, and most of the time they hit all the enemies you didn't want to hit, and the big enemy that's right in front of you that's chunking your health, that rare enemy, he's not getting hit by any of the smites, and all you've done is boost all the damage on that smite. Now you're killing all the little guys while the big guy is taking you out. That's when it kind of sucks a little bit. So this was, I mean, this is still a curse. I was going to say this is a blessing or a curse, how you look at it. This is still a curse. This has really hurt Smite Hammered In builds. I know I made that video theorizing that we're just going to have to change the way we play. It hurts. Smite Hammered In's almost dead. Almost. So one reason why we couldn't run Fisher before with this, at least when I tried running it, is since smites were uncapped, you would just be proccing all these smites, and even with the half a second cooldown on Fisher, you'd still be proccing so many Fishers, and your mana would go. Now, since we don't proc as many smites, gives our mana, if you stack enough mana regen, you can actually keep up with it now. So, I mean, I guess that's the one good thing. So I just took 2 of these idols. I did take Chance to Shred Armor on this one, but you could probably just get away with 2 block effectivenesses. That'd probably be fine. We took a Singularity because all we're doing is dots. So our smites do a little extra hit damage since I didn't want to invest in the crit. Health, resistances, to shore up any weaknesses. And then Throne of Ambition, this helps a lot against bosses, rare enemies, especially, rare enemy like Aberroth. You actually do start to see that damage start to ramp up on the Fishers, the Ignites, the Smites. When you hit like 20 stacks on this, you got all that armor, you get all that more fire damage. It's nice. Throne of Ambition is a good add to the build. I do highly recommend it. So yeah, Throne of Ambition, way to go. Well, that is the idols. Let's get into the blessings. So there's a bunch of these you guys already know. Take whatever you want, glove drop rate, increase experience, whatever, one-handed axes, whatever you're looking for. But let's get into the juicy stuff. So in the Spirits of Fire, we're taking chance to apply fire resistance on hit. Chance to shred fire resistance on it. We're taking in the Age of Winter, the Aberroth timeline. We're taking the block chance, block effectiveness blessing. You can take whatever you want in the Lagon timeline, but I went with health regen. It helps with the shield because Bulwark of the Last Abyss. I didn't really cover this, but in case you guys didn't know, the shield's used a lot, so I'm kind of already going off the assumption that you guys know about it. But in case you don't, Bulwark of the Last Abyss, every 3 seconds, if you're on high health, you'll lose 25% of your health. But then you gain the Apocalypse buff. In this particular case, we don't benefit from the Apocalypse buff. Right? The increased void damage, the increased melee critical strike multiplier. We don't benefit from that at all. But the thing is, the Bulwark of the Last Abyss shield gives us a huge amount of armor and a huge amount of block chance. I think this is one of the few shields in the game where it's pretty easy to get max block chance. And that's why we use this, but we still have that sort of curse, so to speak, the lose 25% of your health. Well, when you take a blessing like increase health regen, that helps regenerate your health faster when you lose that 25%, because this is every 3 seconds. I've seen if you can get your health regen high enough, even though you lose 25%, you can regen it all back real quick. Especially when you got your leeches going. Like I said, we only have 3% health leech going on here. So, yeah, I like this one. But if you need lightning resistance, take that. If you need more mana, take the mana one. I'd say those are the 3 blessings to take from Lagon. I went with health regen. In the Rye timeline, you have a couple different ones you can choose. Ultimately, though, I think Ignite on hit is the best one to take, but you could take Void Resistance, you could take Health. I mean, I guess if you're trying to build crit, you probably wouldn't use this build guide, but nonetheless, if you're trying to build crit, you can go with like crit chance, crit multiplier, but chance to apply Ignite. That's the one I chose. In the Reign of Dragons timeline, I went with all res. I mean, I guess if you're just low on one of the 2 other resistances in that timeline that you could take, like the necrotic or the poison, you can take one of those, but all resistances is a good pickup here. And yeah, I think that settles the blessings. Let's go ahead and get into the skills. So on hammer throw, so even though it says 22 points, we actually technically have 23 points, and I'm pretty sure that's fully stated here. 6, 5, that's 11, plus 6, that is 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So yeah, they're showing you the range because Nihilist can give you 1 to 2. We have a +2. So everything that just add +1 to everything. It's already here in the planner, so don't worry. We have 23, 23, 23, 24, 23, that sort of thing. So let's go over it. So for hammer throw, 5 points in rapid throw, 3 points in guardian zeal. This one, I know it gives you a global increased crit chance. We're not worried about that. What we want is the increased damage. That increases the damage of everything. It's a global increase. So the damage of your ignites goes up. The damage of your Fisher goes up. The damage of your hammers, even though we're not really doing a lot of damage with them, goes up. All those damages go up. Everything. And then Raye's Legacy. 3 stacks, 30% per stack, times 3, 90%. So that's a 90% damage increase while all 3 stacks are active, and a 90% chance to ignite on hit. Very good. This is actually a very great node for leveling. You know, you just a side tangent here. You pick a paladin, whatever, Forge Guard, even Void Knight. Actually, I probably wouldn't recommend it on Void Knight. But nonetheless, you're leveling. You specialize in the hammers first, and your first couple points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, bam, you got a 90% ignite chance. Help burn through everything. That's what I take. Anyway, we got these 3 nodes down here, just 1 point winged hammers, 1 point steadfast path because you have to take it. We do spirals, and then we do hammer vortex, and then we do 2 points in catapult and 6 points in ballista. So our mana cost right here, they say 3. Our actual mana cost is 1 in game. So trying to reduce the mana cost of whatever else we're doing because of Fisher. So that's hammer throw right there. Let's go over to Holy Aura. We're just picking up our resistances, taking 2 points here to get over to here to put 2 points in strength from afar, just to get 3 points in expedite for that haste chance and throwing attack speed. 2 points in vital boon just to be able to take purification, because what this allows us to do is have another source of cleanse plus 20% poison resistance. Very nice. You have a couple choices here. If you feel like you don't need the attack speed and you're good off the ignite chance, you could actually take 3 points out of here and 2 points out of here and put it all into burning blows, right? This will give you a 50% global fire damage increase. That one could be very nice for you. And then I recommend the 2 points in Raye's Fury for that 10% fire pin. Okay, volatile reversal. So we're doing this one a little bit different. Since we have enough points, instead of putting 3 points into catching up, what I've been doing here for these dot builds, we go down here, we pick up 3 points in time rifts for that 60% damage over time taken. The enemies take it. You got to take 1 point in Incipient and 1 point in Terminal just to create 2 different rift gates, so to speak. And then we go over here and we take 3 points in Harbingers of Dust. We only take 3 points in Disintegration and Dark Expanse just to be able to get to these 2 nodes. And that's going to give us a 30% damage taken and a 60% damage taken to the enemy. 60% is damage over time. The 30% is all forms of damage. This is a huge amount of damage that the enemies will be taking when you take both these nodes. Then we take 2 points in Traveler's Fatigue just for cooldown reduction, and then 1 point in Time Lost Wisdom for even more cooldown reduction. Go up here, 2 points in Time Sap to be able to get to Time Lost Vitality for more cooldown, and then our last 3 points I put into Warped Time for a global attack speed. All right, let's get into Smite. Fisher, this is the star of the show. This is probably what's doing a lot of our damage here. So Fisher costs 10 mana. And it's cast when an enemy is hit by Smite and there's a half a second cooldown. So even if you do the math, assuming you get 4 Smite procs in 2 seconds, that's still, yeah. So if you get 4 Smite procs in 2 seconds, and they're all in half-second intervals, that's 4 fissures that are going to be spawning. That's 40 mana that goes by real quick. That's why we needed the mana regen. But the damage from this is actually not that bad. Fissure used to be a meme. It used to be a joke, and I used to not like it. But this is what helped me kill Aberroth. Man, you just start... So it's not a dot like a traditional dot. It creates a fissure on the ground. It's kind of treating Aberroth with his own medicine. You know how he creates like those little dot pools on the ground? Well, we're creating our own dot pools on the ground. So obviously, if he moves off of them, there goes that damage. But he's slow. And if you're constantly spawning these, you're constantly creating them on the ground. If he's standing on them, he's just taking pure dot damage. You can make him bigger, which I do recommend. It's good for monos too, to hit more enemies in one fissure. And then heavy impact increases that damage by 100%, and it's multiplicative. It's more damage. And then this right here, this is how I was able to take down Aberroth in his final phase and not just die to everything else. 9% kill threshold. Highly recommend. And then just to give Smite a little bit of extra hit damage on top, 2 points in Blinding Flash, 5 points in Sacrifice, 5 points in Atonement. That is what's given us a little extra damage on top. Bam, bam, bam. We'll go from there. Sigils of Hope, since I didn't need the block chance, what I did here is I took 5 points in Burning Sign and 3 points in Decree of Flame, 5 points in Empowering Sigils, and 1 point in Last Wish. This is our main source of damage from Sigils, which Sigils already give you 3 fire damage per sigil, and and then 30 health regen per sigil, right? Yes, I'm reading that correctly. I'm so sorry. Yeah. So this gives us even more fire damage per sigil. And then this gives us a 30% ignite chance per sigil. And by default, you can have up to 3 active. And if you take 1 point in Tetragram, which we did, that means 4 points. 4 times 3 is 12. That's a 120% increased ignite chance. Just to have on the side. And then we get all the benefits of sigils. We get the health regen, we get the extra damage, we get a chance to summon sigils on kills, 6% chance. This one's nice. We make the sigils last longer, an extra 10 seconds, 2 points in Iron Sigils for a little endurance threshold bonus. Again, 1 point in Tetragram for that extra sigil, and then 1 point in Meditation, which provides us twice as much regeneration, but sigils can only affect us. Here's the thing. I almost exclusively play solo. I don't think I've ever summoned Sigils of Hope on somebody else. So, yeah. There you go. All right, let's get into the skill tree and then let's get out of here. Not skill tree, passive tree. Then let's get out of here. So we're doing 20 points in Sentinel. Went with 8 points in Juggernaut just for that fire resistance and void resistance and strength. 1 point in Fearless for vitality and health regen. 1 point in Stalwart just for that 3% block chance. Remember, it does not scale with points. So if you put 1 point, you're good. You got all the block chance you wanted out of it. 5 points in Armor Clad. This one, I feel like every Sentinel takes this. This is like the only source of damage reduction. Yes, I'm aware Forge Guard has liquid iron, but I mean, let's be real. This is the main one that everybody takes because it's all we got as Sentinels. So 10% less damage taken from nearby enemies and plus 75 armor. Good old Armor Clad, man. Putting in work. And then 5 points in Valiant Charge. Right here for 30% increase to movement speed. To cooldown for movement skills. That would include stuff like Shield Rush and Volatile Reversal. It's considered a movement skill. It's not considered a traversal skill. It's considered a movement skill. And both Shield Rush and Volatile Reversal are movement skills. All right, cool. 3 points in Forge Guard. We used to be able to put 1 point here, but then they went reworked the Forge Guard tree. And so now we need 3 points here to get that extra 3% block chance. Again, does not scale with the amount of points invested. So just put that 3 points, get your block chance, get out. 10 points in Void Knight. This gives us a good amount of void resistance and physical resistance. If your resistances are good, you only need 5 points in Abyssal Endurance. The health is nice, but if you don't need these resistances, you don't have to. You can invest it somewhere else. But you need at least 5 to get Volatile Reversal. But otherwise, put 10 points here, get your health, get your resistances, move on. There we go. That's all we're getting from our Void Knight, friends. Now let's go over to Paladin. I did not need these resistances, so I put 8 points in Conviction, and I ain't looking back. Look at all that pen. Look at all that increased damage. 1 point in Honor for 2% block chance. Again, does not scale. Put 10 points in Heaven Fire for that flat spell damage with the shield. Fisher does benefit from flat spell damage as well as Smite. 10 points in Valor for an extra massive 150 health as well as 50% healing effectiveness. The smites do heal us, but you have to be in the vicinity when they cast. So basically you have to be right on top of the enemy. And when the smites are coming down, if you're in that area, you get some healing. Doesn't always happen, but when it does, it's nice to have extra healing effectiveness. 7 points on Holy Icon for that increased healing effectiveness, necrotic resistance, and health. 8 points in Sanctuary Guardian for 400 extra armor while wielding a shield, and then even more flat damage with a shield. 1 point in Shield Wall for 5% block chance. Oh, I thought I fixed this. Put 2 points here. 1 point in Faith Armor. This gives us increased armor and critical strike avoidance. We're just using this 1 point here to get to Prayer Aegis, which is actually a skill out of these remaining skills that you level last. So I would probably skip this one for now. I'd skip these two. Make sure you have 12 points in Reverence of Duality and Light of Ra'ye first. Reverence of Duality is huge. 24% increased health, 24% damage, 24% healing effectiveness, 24% increased mana. And then Light of Ra'ye, more movement speed, more fire damage, 96%. It's fat. So this is the one I recommend. But like, let's say you don't have the mana regen I had on my gear. You could actually, instead of putting the points here, you can put this 1 point wherever you want, and then you can take these 10 points and put it into dedication. All 10 points here is going to give you attunement and mana regen. That should help with your mana regen. I don't need it, so I put it all into Prayer Aegis for even more health and endurance threshold. Alright guys, that is the build. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. I didn't mention this earlier, but if you want to see Aberroth, he's actually coming on right after me if you want to see that full fight. Anyway, thank you so much guys. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.
The altar of oblivion.
So you finally returned to me, and with a guest. But first, prove yourselves worthy.
Aberroth! Face us yourself! Skewer! Coward!
Just go pure DPS. So we just have to survive long enough in his final phase to get him down to 9% health, and then he'll die.
You fight for nothing.
Oh, that is not a very strong showing.
You fight for nothing. See the beauty we were denied. The terror turned her back on us. The void hungers. Weak and worthless. The gods tore our world apart. They deserve their fate. The void hungers.
You won? What'd you win?
The void comes. Weak and worthless. We treated the world no better. Death is our legacy. Weak and worthless. Weak and worthless. Die. The world called to Orbis. This is his answer. The void comes. You fight for nothing. Void hungers. Weak and worthless. Hope will not save you. Weak and worthless. You fight for nothing.
Oh my god!
Hungers. The void comes.
There we go. Alright, chat. There you go. We had to make the build super specific to kill Aberroth, but there you go. It's done.